for coaches out there listening, I think my favorite quote is, think like a scientist, act like a coach. I worked in a great environment, a reload, where literally all we cared about, like we would see 30, 40 people a week. And then on the weekends, we would go and visit, somebody, we'd go learn. We'd be at every seminar. Like we were just in a very, we pushed each other to go and want to be in this level of always acquiring knowledge. I've always really enjoyed teaching. I've been to a lot of seminars. I've hosted a lot of seminars, or assisted at them, I should say. And I see a need, when I was a young personal trainer, I was really lost and confused who to learn from. And I think in a world of social media, everybody is kind of, if they don't want to admit it or not, they get kind of this like imposter syndrome and kind of anxious. Like, should I know this? Should I know this? Oh my God, this person's doing this.
Hey, what's up guys? Thank you for joining me and welcome to the show. It is a true blessing to be able to connect with the top minds in strength each and every week and share stories, insights, and experiences on becoming stronger in every area of our lives. And now I want to do more for you. I want to invite you to join the exclusive private Facebook group of The Strength Connection. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength in their lives, and it's the perfect space to explore ideas and share your journey. You'll also get exclusive access to the Strength Connection Mastery Seminars. It's a deep dive into physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. Just go to the Facebook groups, type in The Strength Connection, and you'll be accepted immediately. Thank you so much for tuning in, and I'll catch you on the inside. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining us. Hunter, dude, it's really nice to meet you, man. Thanks for taking the time.
Yeah, man, I'm super excited to be here. I really appreciate it. We're two dudes from the East Coast, grew up not too far from each other. So that's a great connection, man. I'm excited to dive deeper into that. And I'm honored to be here.
Yeah, no, appreciate. Yeah, like you said, we're both New York boys, but not from the city. There's a big other area of New York, everybody, if you're not familiar with it, Western and upstate from there. So yeah, no, I really appreciate you taking the time. And anybody that Antonio tells me to reach out to, I listen. He's one of the best guys that I know and one of the most knowledgeable. So yeah, I think this is going to be great. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no doubt, man. Antonio is sharp as a tack, man. So you don't know Antonio. I think you say his last name Escalante. Is that how you say his last name?
I think Squillante. Yeah.
Squillante. Yeah. You got to check him out, man. He's a super passionate guy that kind of does. But yeah, man, go check him out now.
Yeah. Did you get a chance to work with him and his project that he's kind of doing out there with kettlebell work?
Yeah, man. So I went out to his lab and, they're working on gathering some research for Strong First, and Brett is a part of that project. Essentially, to keep it simple, they're trying to figure out at what load you're training pure power in the swing. So, as we know, a lot of people swing really heavy bells or swing really light bells, and they may not be ever tapping into training true power. So trying to figure out based on your body weight, what bell you should be using. And also the power discrepancy between a trained instructor and just somebody who picks one up and decides to just swing it. So those are the two aims of the study, as far as my understanding goes. And it's pretty cool to go to USC and get into that lab and stand on force plates and do all of that kind of Bill Nye, the science guy type of but in all seriousness, like for me, I think the cool part about going there is like, dude, we live in a world where like science almost doesn't matter. And when I say that, like, everybody's resume is based on like how many followers they have and what kind of message they can, how many people they can spread a message to, but nobody's really checking what they're saying. You know what I mean? And so like Antonio's a guy who's so based in science and disproving himself versus proving himself. That's an important, it's important. Like, are you out there to like prove your point or disprove yourself and humble enough to constantly do that? So it was really cool to step into that lab and finally be refreshed around people who want to get to some data,
Yeah. That's a really good point. It's, because as coaches, I mean, I know me and you are kind of in similar fields. We work a lot with, clients in our programs, and you have to, like, you need to know your work, but you also have to, it's a really relatable type work. There's a lot of communication involved. So sometimes the science in working with clients, specifically starting, it seems like it gets undervalued a little bit from it. And it's so important to have these conversations about actually what is it that we're doing on the scientific background. And every time I get a chance to talk with Antonio, with that objective viewpoint of, no, this is what the data is saying about what we can do. And he came on here recently and told me about the research that he was doing of finding that kind of Goldilocks bell for that pure power production. I was like, oh, like this sounds really exciting. And he's had, a couple other people that I knew jump on that they said they really found some interesting insights into it. But I remember talking with Dr. Pat Davidson about that, where he said, you still need to, as a coach and as a trainer, like you need to dive into the science and understand this shit, like, and get this deep competence about it. And like, because that only will breed more confidence, but like there is some deep science into what we're doing. It's not just about followers and connection as well.
Yeah, I mean, totally. I think it depends, for coaches out there listening. I think my favorite quote is, think like a scientist, act like a coach. And it's from Carmen Ba in Canada. And what it means, my interpretation of it is, you need to be able to understand what's behind why you're programming things, why you're selecting exercises, actually founded in, no, this is research based. And we know, like I can defend why I'm doing certain things. But you also need to not like overbore your clients with that shit because they don't really care, So you have to act like a coach. You have to be relatable, fun to hang out with, to be around. And if you can kind of tiptoe that line between being a scientist and a coach, that's what you need to be. I know some of the best coaches that I know, they weren't, people who graduated with master's degrees or doctorates or anything like that. They learned through experience and related to people really well. And some people, if you're just throwing data at clients, they're like, dude, I just want to do a squat, like, why do I need to care? But if you can tell there's science baked into your training system, everybody can tell if you're looking around, if you know what you're talking about. You can look around and go, oh, that person is onto something. That person's, like, what is their thought process? But if it just looks random, it probably is random,
Yeah. So. That's a good point. That's a great quote too. Of think like a scientist. That's the behind the scenes work that we need to do as coaches, and it's interesting. I just learned a lot actually from talking with Antonio, kind of changed my mind in some of those ways. Cause I've been down a rabbit hole of the intuitive training approach for quite a bit. And I think there's some great merit and value to that, but it's been this question of how much exact structure do you need versus how much intuition that you need, and find that harmony. So that's the thing about science and guys like Antonio and guys like Dr. Pat. It's like, go into it objectively, not looking for an answer that you want, just go in and find the research and see where it is and present it out. Yeah.
And one of my mentors, probably the greatest mentor in my career, Coach Darius, he told me, he's like, dude, I've done all the research with a push band. And I know, my eyes tell me what that push band is telling me. Like I can see a kettlebell slowing down. It usually happens in rep number 4. Usually 3 reps are fast, number 4 sucks. So I'm going to train 3 for power. It's like, I don't need to do all this velocity-based training research. Look, Antonio's done it. I'll let him do it for me. I'll go learn from him. I'll pick his brain. I don't need to do it because I can see what that data is going to tell me. Right. But that's only through experience. Like new coaches, they don't know that if they haven't seen enough people swing kettlebells. And so that's where the data is really helpful to teach them, look, like if you want to train speed, you want to train power, if it decreases 20%, right, speed wise, and your eye will see that. Like if it decreases 20%, your eye is going to go, that looks slow. Stop the swing set. It's like, I don't need to tell you exactly how fast. It's just like, okay, stop, give them some reps, do it again, depending on what you're trying to do. So,
Yeah. But it is, and somebody like Darius, who's got so much experience down the line, it always brings me to that. I probably reference this book in almost every podcast, but the book Mastery by Robert Greene, when he talks about the apprenticeship phase, then you eventually get to the creative phase where you take all the knowledge that you learn from your mentors and your masters. Then you bring your creative approach, your experience into it. But still, we have to go through that apprentice phase of learning, where just kind of that time of shut up and don't question it, just absorb all the knowledge and figure it out. Then you can get to that other world. And I think as you kind of said, we live in a time where I think a lot of people are skipping that point of apprenticeship, where you're having 20-year-olds who are life coaches because they have, thousands and thousands of followers. But like, you need to put in those sets and reps of just learning the data first. Then you get to your time when you have that experience where you can see on the fourth rep, yeah, I know that's when it's slowing down, but you have to earn your way to get there.
Yeah. Could you imagine hiring a 20-year-old life coach? You know what I mean? Like but it exists. Yeah, I think you're right, man. I think the apprenticeship is really important. And that kind of gets into my story, which is that's what I was able to do in reflection during the pandemic. I was able to be an apprentice, kind of during a time where, apprenticeship is tough because, like, as a personal trainer, you don't make that much money in the beginning. You just don't. In order to get the experience, you have to be willing to take 3 to 5 years on the chin and maybe even more to get in the trenches, gain experience. And during the pandemic, when everything shut down, I got an opportunity to go down to Virginia and just learn with Darius every day. You know what I mean? Like, be there, see how he coached his athletes, see how he made decisions. Like, that's a really important piece I don't think people really understand. Like, you can read textbooks and get all the theory. The theory is important because it backs up how you make decisions. But I learned by watching people who are way smarter than me make decisions and then pick their decisions apart and try to understand why they made them. You know what I mean? And you don't really get that unless you're in an apprenticeship kind of scenario. So wrapping it up, back to my point, is like, how are you going to take a year off to go learn from somebody somewhere when you're not making any money? You know what I mean? I think it makes it really tough. So yeah, I would encourage people out there, if you do have the opportunity and there's people who you look up to, like, hit them up. Be like, can I come learn from you for a week or two? You know,
is that what you did? How did that opportunity for you come about? What were you doing beforehand?
It was a crazy opportunity, meaning, Darius, I was working with Reload at the time, physical therapy company in New York. And Darius was one of our mentors, and we had visited him right before the pandemic, gone down, learned from him a little bit. And I think it was June. So that was probably in March, and the pandemic hit. And then in June, I had just gone through a breakup, 7 years, and I was at home in Massachusetts, and I literally got a call from my boss at the time, Ryan Chow, and he's like, dude, look, like, Darius wants you to come down to Virginia. You can go run their programs, go learn. And I was like, damn, book it. So it just happened to be an opportunity like that. But there's other opportunities where I've seeked out professionals where I've literally just hit them up on Instagram, like, can I come learn from you for a weekend or a week? And I've gone down and learned, you know what I mean? Like, these people can't get me out of their inboxes, like Fred Duncan, Ryan Hopkins, Lee Taft, those kind of guys. I'm like, I just want to come learn some shit from you, Jair, the guys at Exos. So it's like, you just gotta, if you want to go and get that apprenticeship, to your point, it's like, you got to go out and seek it. There's people, especially now online, offering so much information. It's like, you got to get out and seek it.
Yeah. Is that something that was always kind of ingrained in you, to, like, just be that person that jumps out and just throws themselves out there to people? Because I know a lot of people struggle with just putting that out there, like, because there's the fear of failure that comes in. Oh, I don't want to bother this person. But I understand where you're coming from, of just reaching out to people, and people who really love what they do, and the tops of the tops. A lot of them are usually very excited to teach other people who are interested in learning.
Yeah, that's what I found personally. So to be honest with you, I think it was ingrained in me. I worked in a great environment at Reload where literally all we cared about, like, we would see 30, 40 people a week. And then on the weekends, we would go and visit, somebody, and we'd go learn. We'd be at every seminar. Like, we were just in a very, we pushed each other to go and want to be in this level of always acquiring knowledge, And I think that kind of was instilled in me then, and it kind of dampened I would go to seminars and I wouldn't say hi or take pictures with anybody in the beginning. And I wish I did, because I'd have pictures with great people. But now, I reach out and I look at them more on a human being level than on like oh my God, there's a great cook or Brett Jones. I remember being in that stage. But I think if you reach out, what you really find is they do want to teach you, to your point. They want to teach you. They start to realize that their legacy, if they're at the end of their, they're 50, 60 years old, like they want the shit that they've learned to be passed on, especially in an environment. They're all cringing at how the fitness industry is kind of evolving. You know what I mean? It's evolving kind of it's predicated on all of these myths and marketing and things that aren't proven. So they're like, here, let me pass on some shit that I know works.
Right. Well, and that point that you brought too is don't just go right into it with your camera out, like ready to throw the picture up on Instagram. It's like, and which is again, kind of where, especially in the online fitness world, that seems like it goes, but just having that conversation and just provide some value, with it first. It's like, because I think that's the last thing that anybody wants is like just to go in. They're willing to learn, they're willing to teach and willing to give information, but don't just do it in the sense that you're trying to snag more followers from it.
Yeah, totally, man. Totally.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, like the people that are just trying to snag more followers, like they'll go do their own thing, but like, they're never going to be really accepted into this community. You know what I mean? And I think, I think there's two different things. And one of the presentations I give is the difference between an influencer and a coach. Like a coach is like a very specific thing. When I think of a coach, I think of like Charlie Francis, who like, there's a picture of him like kneeling down next to Ben Johnson. And this is somebody who worked with Ben Johnson every day for 4 years to get him to the Olympics. An influencer is like, how hard it is to take somebody to the Olympics over 4 years, constantly tweaking with their body, their training cycle, their recovery, versus people who are just like influencers who like, they throw out the same regurgitated fitness knowledge. They're not really helping any individual people. They're not really offering any application to help anything.
Right.
They're just trying to sell themselves and their own physique and their own thing to sell products. So if you want to do that, that's fine. I don't really have any ill will towards that. It's just a different thing. We're trying to create coaches who, they don't have to be like Charlie Francis, but they have to be in tune with their clientele. They have to understand how to apply all these concepts to their clients and get results. And that's not going to come through just worrying about your following. You actually have to understand how the X's and the O's work.
Yeah, seriously. And I mean, and when you do that in the right way, all the followers and all the people that you need from there are just going to come eventually. And, working with somebody, like a Ben Johnson like that, and you have specific sports where you're trying to get like trying to get somebody from great to really great, from there, like that requires every ounce of attention that you can possibly get from there. So when you mentioned working with Coach Darius, you said something that I thought was so interesting of learning how to make decisions from that. What was that like? Can you elaborate a little bit on that of like what you saw from him when you first started working with him?
Yeah, man. Coach Darius is very gifted. And I knew that like going into it, like the videos I had seen of him before or his kids, it wasn't even of him. Okay. I've never seen a video of him working out, I don't think, in my life. Very seldomly, right? So it's never about like me. But I saw these kids who were 15, 16 years old doing snatches with like 88s, 97s, swinging heavy bells, jumping over, hurdles, sprinting. I was like, what the hell is going on? These kids also throw 91 and are winning their track meets, right? Or hockey goalies or, whatever sport, but they were dominating. And I was like, dude, this is crazy. So, when I got down there, I just noticed that all of these things were baked into his training system. Number one, triphasic training is in there a lot. He has another mentor, Charlie Weingroff, who's in there a lot. Mike Davis is one of his mentors as well. So there's a lot of foot stuff that comes in there. But a lot of mentors of his work seeps into how he trains people, and he doesn't make it very scientific, right? It's just in there and it works, and he's put his own spin on it. the decision making is every day we go out to this park, right? And, this is where we did it. We did it on a basketball court. We'd have like 10 bells, 5 hurdles, and a medicine ball. That's all we used. And, from the minute those kids would show up, he'd be doing an inventory. So he'd be looking at these kids. What's their energy level like? Are they confident today? Is there a spring in their step? Okay, he's going around. What did you eat for breakfast? What did you eat for breakfast? What did you eat for breakfast? So he's collecting this data, and then he's like, okay, go walk on your toes out to half court, walk back. He's watching their feet. So just making these observations about the readiness of these athletes from the moment that they arrive, without even saying anything. So that was one thing that I picked up. Another thing is, okay, well, like, why did this exercise precede this one? So a lot of this stuff, with training for power is all about the nervous system, realistically, like power, explosiveness, speed. The nervous system, it's not muscle and bone, right? You have to excite it. You have to know when it's ready to be excited.
Yep.
And so the readiness is really important, but then also, like, what do I potentiate that with if I want to get the result? So I just watched a lot of things happen, and I watched a lot of results happen. And then I had to break down, like, what preceded that, because everything has an intention, with somebody like that. So you see that with a lot of sport coaches, because they have really tight relationships with their athletes, and they know how they want to get their athletes somewhere. So they're always assessing their athlete, and then they're always trying to potentiate the outcome they want. So how to make those decisions are pretty important. And with our clientele, who are general population, like, it's the same thing. It applies, like in New York City, okay, if you're a trainer in New York City, you need to be really good at this, because nobody sleeps, everybody socially drinks, everybody travels. So you're dealing with
you're excited all the time.
Yeah. Right. So, Fred Duncan says, like, okay, like, you have a plan A, good coaches can go to plan B, great coaches can go to plan F. And like, that's the decision-making process. Okay, somebody didn't sleep last night, somebody drank the night before, they're not eating. Okay, what am I going to do now? Like, I got to tear up my plan, because there's no way in hell we're doing a max squat day today if they're tracked. So what do I do now? You know what I mean? Like,
That's the two great examples you gave there. It's so interesting that we talk about the art of coaching and the science of coaching, and both of them are like right in there, where it's like, you need to know the exercises, what precedes what comes after what, and looking at those things. But then the mental inventory of it. I found this when I started working with young athletes for a while too. I worked at a place where we took over a center. It was called the Hockey Hut. So it was all young athletes who were hockey players. And we took over a lot of these teams where we had from 8, 9-year-olds all the way up to some of the kids 17, 18 who were trying to play juniors and go to the next top level. And we had some that were coming in before practice to come. Then some were training after practice. And you could what I loved about kids is, like, they wear their emotions so much on their sleeves that you can tell kind of how they feel right off the bat. And I remember talking with Nick Winkleman about this when he talked about his cueing work, where everybody thinks about it in the science behind it. What's the best cue? It's like, no, the cueing is really the communication behind it, going to each athlete, asking them about what they ate, how they feeling, and kind of getting their tone from it. So it's that interesting combination of knowing both of those so you can make the changes. I always thought, like, the best coaches, it's not about the game plan, it's about how you adjust that game plan when the first quarter comes down and halftime afterwards. So it seems like that was such an intense education that you had in a relatively short period of time.
Yeah, man. I mean, I think that's a great reference there, right? Like, Nick's book is literally called The Art of Coaching, right? That's the title. Yeah, I mean.
Yeah, I believe so. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and tying that to Brett Jones, who's like, don't say much, he's kind of like, use external cues, don't say much. Like, I think if you relate our job If you take a kid and you put them on the playground and you just watch how they kind of explore their environment and move, that's a lot of the adults we work with who have never trained in their life, never played sports as a kid. Like they're just exploring their environment, you know? And to be very rigid and to be like, squeeze your glute, tighten your core, don't move here, you're not allowing the exploration. Like, just got to set up the guardrails so that they're safe while exploring, you know, to your point. And that's like the art of how do I construct that environment versus sets, reps, load, velocity. Like that's a different side of things, you know.
Right.
But, you know, if you know how to set up the guardrails, it's not hard to adjust for that. Like move it faster. You know, like it's not hard. It's like move the weight faster. Okay, we just trained power. Move it slower. Okay, we just trained strength. You know? So you can kind of set these environments and constraints up, and that's kind of like a dynamic systems theory, right? Like Franz Bosch, set up the environment, let the person learn. The one thing that will make you sound like a rookie and make me want to throw up if I'm in a gym is if I hear you over cueing somebody and cutting off that learning. It just makes me really uncomfortable. I don't know why. Like if I go into, like if I'm training in the gym and I just hear like this personal trainer, I'm just like, it's like nails against a chalkboard almost, you know?
Yeah. It's, you know, it's funny. There was an analogy I remember is a business analogy of sales and communication. And they said the beginner who's never done sales before talks 30% of the time, lets the prospect talk 70%. The amateur talks 70% of the time, prospect talks 30. Then the professional talks 20% of the time. The other one, the prospect talks 80, but they do that on purpose, you know, for it. And that's what I learned. And I know you work so closely with Brett as well. And the thing I love about working with Brett is he just says like, try this. And then just tells you something. There's a million things he's looking for in that, but that's all he says is try this, then tells you to do a quick adjustment. How does that feel? Oh, I felt this. I felt, okay, that's what we were looking for. You don't need to say that much in order to get the result you're looking for.
Totally. And I think, dude, like I think the important thing to be relatable is, you know, anybody listening to this podcast is like, I'm talking like this because I've made these mistakes, you know, through tens of thousands. I probably got 12, 15,000 sessions, somewhere in that range, you know what I mean, in my career, because I've seen a lot. I only did one-on-ones, and that's nothing compared to people who have been in the game 20, 30 years, right? But I'm telling you this because I've been the over cuer, I've been the excited person who is trying to get these results and just not understanding how the results actually happen, you know? So to your point, still now, like I have to rein myself in when I get super excited and I'm like, damn, you just killed it. Here's, you know, I'm like, yo, just shut up. You know, like you can get excited and congratulate and empower, but you also just need to sometimes hold some things in because they may not be helpful, you know?
Yeah. So timeline wise, now you're in Virginia, you were working with Coach Darius, then you made your way out to the West Coast. Yeah. Now that you're in LA, what sparked that move to bring you out there?
Yeah, man. So just to rewind a little bit before that. So, I mean, I went to Penn State and I was a strength and conditioning intern there. So worked with a variety of different sports, track and field, gymnastics, football, baseball. And I kind of got to see how Division I weight rooms work, and you know how really regimented they are, right? So that's a kind of place where you know exactly what your athletes are eating because they all eat the same place. They all go to the practice at the same time. They have to go to their lifts. So it's a very easy place to run periodized training, right?
Right.
Because you know you're going to have them, and it's the same kind of confounding variables. From there, I went to New York and I got my master's at Hofstra, worked a little bit with lacrosse there, and started becoming a personal trainer. And I walked into an interview. I tell this story all the time because it took me a while to understand what happened in this instance, but I went into an interview. The interviewer was a future boss, Dr. Ryan Chow, and he's like, "What do you want to do?" And I was like, "I want to train athletes." You know what I mean? And he's like, "Look around." I looked around at 60 to 70-year-olds, 50, 60, 70-year-olds, and like, you realize like, oh shit, like, okay, there's no money in collegiate strength and conditioning, right? There's none. So you're gonna have to wake up at 4 a.m., be there till 4 or 5 p.m. And, you know, you're going to have to really love it. And for me, I was like, look, I want to go after a place where I can be a little bit more financially successful, but also deliver those principles and be about the stuff I learned, because I don't think it's that different personally. You know, like if I'm training a running back or a basketball player or a grandma, like I'm looking at the same things. The intensity may be a little bit different, but relatively, a grandma doing an A skip is pretty similar to doing a running back doing a 40-yard dash. Okay?
Yes.
It's pretty similar, you know, from an intensity standpoint for the person. Force production, maybe not the same, but intensity, that grandma's giving me everything, that running back's giving me everything, you know? So I don't think it's that different. So I did that. I was in New York for, from 2015 until March 2020. So as I was telling you before, when the lockdown happened, I went all virtual. And so I had my one-on-ones virtually, and got an opportunity to go down to Virginia. And I was down in Virginia for close to a year, which was supposed to be a month. You know, it was supposed to be a month, we turned into 2, turned into 3, signed a lease, was working with, loving it down there, man. So, you know, I ultimately had to come back to New York, and was in New York, and then decided I need a little change. So I came out to the West Coast last October, 2021. So ultimately, that's my journey. What I'd like people to take from it, you know, because I think, you know, I mentor a lot of coaches now who want it to happen right now.
Yeah.
You know, I want it to happen now. You know, although I'm all virtual right now, there's been a lot of hours that have gone in, you know, learning wise, seeing clients wise. And, you know, ultimately what spurred my decision to come out to the West Coast was just needing a change from New York. I was there a long time, and, you know, I met a girlfriend at the time, or my girlfriend at the time, and had a new opportunity to come out here. So I think COVID gave us all these kind of new opportunities, you know, that we may never have had.
Yeah, it's some thinking outside the box, you know, type work from there. When you first started kind of working in this space where you saw like everybody was more of like 60, 70, a lot of life experience and seasoned people out there, did you feel that sense of fulfillment working with them right away from what you thought you were going to get from kind of working with athletes?
Dude, I won't even sugarcoat this. I didn't know what the fuck I was doing.
Yeah.
Like, had no fucking idea. Like, you know, as far as it went, I'll say that in this way. I was in a gym that was very focused around corrective exercise and FMS and NASM CES, and it was a very causal and effect kind of thinking that I know now to be not true, which is, okay, well, you know, do this screen. Well, the pec's tight, the lat's long, so we need to mobilize this, strengthen this, and it just doesn't work like that, right? So for me, I was put into this system where I was made to feel like a novice because I didn't know this corrective exercise world. You know what I mean? I just didn't. And I thought, because it was supposed to be like exactly what it was. Well, this is like, you know, super fancy, and like, does it actually even work? I would argue it probably doesn't, but I knew how to deadlift and squat. I deadlifted 405 when I was like 14, back squatted 315 at the same age. So I was like, I know how to do all that shit. You know what I mean? But I'm like, oh, I have to figure out how to deliver this. So I hustled, man. And I think I had a great manager early on. His name's Eric Hochberg. He's a big German dude. And he just kind of took me under his wing, and he just taught me how to do it. And I started to get fulfilled by gaining confidence with my skill set. in building relationships, man. Like
Yeah.
I always loved the relationships with the people. People took a shine to me. I took a shine to them, and figuring it out. I still haven't figured it out. So it's just a constant learning process. But, I still have some 67-year-old people I work with online out here who I've had for 6-7 years. Who are like, those are like my homies, but that's, I also work with athletes and youth athletes and coaches. I work with a very broad spectrum of people.
Yeah. It's so, it's so funny. There's so much similarity of the track that I wanted to do as well, of working. I thought I was going to work with athletes. I felt like I was the athlete before. That's what I want to do. There's some feeling of glory that we get of working with these athletes, with stuff. But I've told this story before in the podcast, but I remember it was short term into my personal training career. And we worked with a big senior population, a lot of corrective exercises. And I had this woman, Helen, who was just north of 90 when I met her. And I asked what the goal is, as you normally do. And she said, I want to open up my peanut butter jar. And I was like, as a 24-year-old kid, I was like, I thought everything was aesthetics or just max strength, from there, and found out this woman, she enjoyed waking up in the morning, watching the news and having an English muffin with peanut butter with her tea. And her grip strength got so bad that she couldn't open it up anymore. So she wanted to improve quality of life. It was such a nuanced thing for me to think of. And I'll never forget, it was like a few weeks into our training, we were doing just deadlifts, some carries, a little bit of work. And I'm just at my desk, just writing out programs, and I hear a jar hit my desk, and I look up and it's Helen. She's like, watch this. And she opened up the jar in front of me. Yeah. And dude, like the look of excitement that she had on her face was like Usain Bolt just won the gold medal of accomplishment. Yeah. It's just, you don't realize the impact that you can make as a coach with just the person that's down the street who's just trying to live their best life and just get through their day.
Yeah, dude. That's awesome, man. Those are the goals I like to go after too. This really, like athletes youth athlete. It depends on the population. Yeah. So like youth athletes, anywhere from like 8 until 14, love them. You know what I mean? Like getting them ready. Cause I feel like, those kind of kids are almost like seniors, like the kid is kind of unsure of his body, doesn't have much strength. If you see a kid do a push-up, you know what I'm talking about. Or
right.
It's like they're all bendy and not much strength. And, seniors are, again, they're getting unsure of their bodies, in a different way because they're aging. And it's like, in both ways, you're empowering somebody to have strength so their quality of life gets better so that they can, do more tasks and goals like Helen, you know what I mean? But that 14 to 18-year-old athlete, and into college and professional, it's a different game. You know what I mean? They're starting to put pressure on themselves because they want to get offers. They want to, really start to, put numbers up and do things. It's a different job. You know what I mean? It's a different job. So, I've always stayed with, working with people, to your point, that you can help them get to their tasks. They appreciate it. You empower them and you have a great relationship with them. It's a tough demographic, that demographic, like, I guess 14, 15, 18, and then into college, you're just trying to keep them on the field, and keep them not hurt. And, some of them really, really appreciate it. And, your role is to get them to understand the importance, keep them healthy, and probably be their friend, because a lot of them are starting to put a lot of pressure on themselves. You know what I mean? At that age.
Yeah, that's just be there to support them, it's such a confusing time of life of that time. But so I know also, you work with a lot of general population, you work with athletes and stuff, but you also built the Kettlebell Coach University, where you help other coaches as well. What was it that inspired you that you wanted to kind of take a piece of your energy and your time and work to helping coaches?
Yeah, so probably now, that's the majority of what I do. So, basically the reality of the situation was I've always really enjoyed teaching. I've been to a lot of seminars. I've hosted a lot of seminars, or assisted at them, I should say. And I see a need, for, when I was a young personal trainer, I was really lost and confused who to learn from. And I think in a world of social media, everybody is kind of, if they don't want to admit it or not, they get kind of this like imposter syndrome and kind of anxious. Like, should I know this? Should I know this? Oh my God, this person's doing this. Like, they don't know what's credible or what's going to actually help them be able to produce results or build their business, And when I was a young trainer, I was able to meet mentors, Craig Levinson being one, Ryan Chapman being another one, who kind of steered me on this path. Learn from this person. This is good stuff. Go to this seminar, do this. And I just kind of listened and followed, and it ended up getting me to where I am now. I had to be willing to invest the time, but I just kind of want to be that beacon for other coaches who, are humble, hardworking, and, they want to learn, So that's why I decided to create it. It was out of wanting to, take the next step in my career and work with people who are super hardworking, humble, and help them get them where they want to go. So I could give back and, out of gratitude for people who did that for me. So that's how I created it.
Yeah. It's awesome. It's so interesting. It is, when you mentioned that word imposter syndrome, like if I was young, like getting into this business again, how things work now. I mean, I've been doing it for, I think 14 years now or so. So now it's like, where do you even start with the information? And, one of my mentors said, one of the best lines, like, ask yourself, do I need to know more, or do I need to use what I know to the best of my ability? And I think so much, it's so easy to think that you need to know more knowledge, when it's like, no, just take the information that you have, use it to the best that's a possibility from there. So how's that? Have you changed the program up as you've gone through? Like, are things that you used to teach that now you found better ways and kind of evolved it over time?
Yeah. So the program is set up, basically how I started was it's 8-week long program. Right? And when I designed it, I didn't realize I did it this way for a reason, but we meet once a week to train as a group. We meet another time a week for a lecture. So I go over a strength and conditioning topic, or, a topic related to the field. And so then 2 other times during the week, you have a homework session delivered through an app called Train Heroic. So basically when we train together, I install a concept. So just like if we're on a football team, here's the plays for the week, right? Okay, go home, practice the plays on your own, come to Chalk Talk. I'll tell you the science behind why we're doing it like this. And so you get an opportunity. If you're a different kind of learner, some people learn by seeing it in a lecture. Some people learn by doing, some people learn by doing it on their own. So it caters to different learning styles, and it's 8 weeks long. So you have to invest, you have to invest time, it's about 32 hours for those 8 weeks. So that's level 1. And basically when I ran the first one, there was an overwhelming demand for a second level, hey, we're not done with this. We want to keep learning. And to me, that gave me the freedom to kind of slow down, to your point, which is like, I want to hammer these concepts in. And so 8 weeks, level 2 follows the same 8-week long block, is just more advanced concepts. And then we have a testing out certification out of that level. So not just everybody gets to be a level 2. I think we've had 81 total coaches in KBCU, and 25 have been level 2 certified. So, awesome. We have a barrier to entry to that zone. And once you get level 2 certified, we have a community subscription where you can come and train with the group once a week and get access to group speakers and some content. So the idea is, it started out of like a continuing education Play, but honestly, it's turned into a community where people, all over the country and in the world now, we have coaches in India, Turkey, Ireland, and the UK, where now across the globe, people are hitting each other up, know each other, helping each other market their own products, inspire each other, show up for their workouts. So it's been really cool, man. I've been really blessed to be a part of it and be around those people.
I love him. And like what the word that's coming to mind as I'm hearing you speak is it's an abundance mentality, like where I think a lot of times coaches, especially in the online world now, because it can be a very lonely space. It's like if you're doing all online work, not realizing that there's other coaches out there that are working the same thing. They're probably having very similar struggles and challenges that you are. And it's such a big world. It's like, and a lot of times we think that there's only so many people. Oh, I need to get so many people. How am I going to find them? It's like, everybody needs strength and everybody needs health and fitness in here. It's like, there's plenty to go around for everybody. So building these small communities at a time where you can just, connect with people. I think it's so valuable to have those outlets, just not only from the knowledge base, but just the support and the community side from it.
Totally. Yeah, totally, man. And it's just a growing profession. Like when I first was a personal trainer, I saw all these cops in New York and I was like, damn, what if I just stop being a trainer and I become a cop? You know what I mean? And I was looking for another profession. I was like, dude, this can't be all the money I'm going to make, Mm-hmm. And now I'm very happily, successful. And I'm like, damn, dude, it took a little bit of like sitting in there and taking some off the chin, but I get to live the life I want to live now, be able to travel, and be able to generate revenue in the name of helping other people make an impact, and mm-hmm. in a world where only 23% of people are meeting their physical activity guidelines, and pandemics are hitting. And we know from the data that, look, the healthier you are, the more resilient you're going to be. Mm-hmm. What's the investment of, whatever a personal training cost is a year to ensure your health and longevity? Like, if you can't sell that, then you got to go to a sales class, because I can sell it all day long. And it's like, you got to just get good at teaching people why it's important to them and provide value. And it's just growing. People are starting to realize, oh shit, I better get my ass off the couch. And it's up to us as a collective, right, mm-hmm. to inspire them. And we're just going to do better for the business, and they're going to do better for their health. So I don't see a loss,
Right. No doubt. Do you talk business strategy with the coaches that you work with?
Yeah, that's a huge part of it. So actually that's like what everybody wants, right? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm like,
is that the big struggle that most people come in with?
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody does in this new environment, meaning like, hey, how do I start a kettlebell program online? Mm-hmm. That could put people into paralysis by analysis. Like, is my product good enough? Where am I going to market it? How am I going to do it? Do I need to hire a business coach or a social media coach? I'm like, bro, no. You know what I mean? Like I sat down 30 minutes to an hour a day for 30 days and I just created KBCU. And I got that advice from Dr. Sean Patusic, who started Active Life RX. He said, when I started Active Life, I told my wife goodbye for a month and I checked into a hotel and I created Active Life. Yeah. And that's what I did with KBCU. I was like, I'm just going to sit down and do it. And if you do it like that, you're able to create something that you can execute. So I think, yes, to your question, I think people struggle with the action steps to open up the life they want to have, but I don't think they're that far from being able to do it.
Yeah. Well, and I loved, the examples that you brought out, Hunter, of just even reaching out to people saying, I want to learn from you. That's a skill, just like anything with sale, that paralysis by analysis. I just had a conversation with somebody about this and he was pondering, what should I call the program it's like, just freaking call it anything and just throw it out there. It's like, there's a great book by Danny Meyer, the restaurant entrepreneur from New York, Setting the Table. And where he said, like, he just called like his restaurant, it was Union Street Cafe. It's like, cause that's what it was. It's like, all right, good, done. Get it out there. It's like those little, going back to making decisions, right? It's just make those things and get it out there, because you're going to take your lumps, but you're going to also have your successes as you come through there too.
And you know what really brings people into a community is when you make them part of that decision-making process. So I don't give a shit if KBCU is named right. First of all, I named it because I love college football. And I was like, I'm just going to call it the U, you know what I mean? And it's like, so I don't give a shit, but for like my logos, I send it to the group. Which one do you like? What shirts do you like? What should we do? So they're a part of that decision-making process. Yes. I don't need to be the smartest guy in the room. I just need to include my team and make them feel a part of it. And then, everybody feels good about it. I think everybody just feels this super pressure. Like, do I have to be this smart? Do I have to be this talented? I feel it every day, just as everybody else does. But like, if you can override that and just be like, I don't have to be the smartest person in this room. I just need to be able to be vulnerable and be able to call on other people and take advice, and then you'll be successful. It's easier said than done, but
yeah. I love that. Yeah. It's just funny. One of my mentors just talked about, putting out information like on a new program. He's like, write a letter to yourself. Like, why are you interested in this program? Why would you sign up for it? And all of a sudden things just start flying, out. We get in our own heads of, trying to get into that mindset, thinking that you need to convince somebody to do it. It's like, you don't convince anybody to do it. You just offer this perspective. This is what I do. And if you're passionate about it, then other people are going to resonate with that. They're going to feel your energy, from it. It's always interesting in the coaching world, especially in health and fitness, because we can talk and have conversation upon conversation about sets and reps and different exercises and stuff. And that's all really fun stuff. But as you kind of said, that great quote of like, think like a scientist, but act like a coach. Like, this is the time, just act like a coach and just be there for people.
Yeah, man, that's right. You can drop the mic on that one. I think it's, in closing,
mm-hmm.
I think the sets and reps are a lot less important. I think those things are important for you to understand, why you're selecting what you're selecting. So you're not just throwing shit at the wall and hoping it sticks. Like, have a plan, be the scientist. But if you want to be successful in business and you want to be able to unlock the life you want to live, you got to understand how to create relationships and provide value to people, and encourage them, empower them. And if you can do that, dude, there's nothing that will stop you in this industry,
Yeah.
So that's it. Have great energy and just get behind people, and they'll get behind you. But don't be an idiot about it either. That's all I'll say about it.
Exactly. Love it, man. Dude, I think that's a wrap on that. Dude, it's awesome having you on. I really appreciate you taking the time, and I feel like we need to do this again. I feel like we're just getting started. So I really appreciate it, man.
No problem, bro. I really appreciate coming through. Anybody that is trying to spread the good message, man, it's going to be up to us to
mm-hmm.
raise the quality, in this industry. So I'm happy to do it, man.
And no doubt. So for people who want to follow more of your content, maybe take a look at KBCU. What's the best place that we can direct them?
Yeah, man. You go to my Instagram, Hunter-Crine. In the bio is a wait list for KBCU. The next cohort will be in October for level 1. And yeah, that's where you can find me.
Love it, man. Awesome, dude. Till next time, I really appreciate it. Listeners, thank you so much. Catch you next time. Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found some great value here. And if you like this episode, please drop a comment and leave us a 5-star rating and review. It does more to build the show than you can imagine. And do not forget to check out and join the Strength Connection Facebook group. In this group, I share the biggest takeaways and lessons from these amazing conversations, as well as training and strength tips for pursuing mastery and fulfillment in life. This group is filled with individuals looking to take full control over their strength, and it's the perfect space to explore new ideas and to share your journey. And you'll also get exclusive access to these Strength Connection Mastery seminars. It's a deep dive into the physical, mental, and spiritual training that you can begin using immediately. So do not wait, go now. Seriously, go. All right, much love to you. Thank you so much, and I'll catch you on the next one.